Concerned over the recent protests over the cost of living crisis, President Bola Tinubu has directed immediate interventions to alleviate the suffering caused by the rising cost of food items. It follows a meeting of the Special Presidential Committee on Emergency Food Intervention at the Aso Villa. The presidency said that there is sufficient food supply in the country, but exploitation by some forces has caused an increase in the prices of food items. Minister of Information Mohammed Idris highlighted some of the actions to be taken, including unlocking the national food reserves, engaging with major millers and commodity traders, and addressing the impact of currency depreciation on food prices. The Central Bank Governor, Finance Minister, Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Chief of Staff, and National Security Advisor participated in the deliberations set to continue until Thursday. However, some Nigerians believe that solving the problem of insecurity will help in improving the food basket of Nigeria. Joining us now is Dr. Sani Abdullahi, former chairman for the prosecution of armed bandits and banditry-related offenses in Zamfara State, member Security and Intelligence Committee, and the executive director of Patriots for the Advancement of Peace and Social Development. Good morning, Dr. Abdullahi, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Dr. Robin Abati. Thank you for having me in this program.
Well, thank you very much. Well, I mean, insecurity in the country, physical insecurity, now again, food insecurity, resulting in riots, protests, as it were, in Kano and Mina. And you have been involved in this prosecution of armed bandits and, banditry-related offenses, and seeing how Nigeria can be made more secure. What do you think is the way forward? We keep hearing the same thing all the time. Government will change the architecture. We will recruit more personnel. Or food insecurity, we will release food from the National Strategic Grains Reserve. And yet, people cannot go to the farm. People do not feel safe. People are hungry. What do you think the Tinubu administration needs to do? Because these are very clear problems that need to be addressed urgently too.
Well, there is a lot of root factor of food insecurity which was identified in Nigeria. There is low wages, poverty, unemployment, conflict and war, and depreciation of local currency, and corruption. So if you look at critically, the contributing factor of food insecurity in Nigeria, you come to believe with me that these factors have mitigated to the food insecurity where many Nigerians cannot afford even 1 square meal in a day, talk less of a balanced diet, having a balanced diet. There is a serious effect of this food insecurity, that there is higher rise of hunger, starvation, and disease. So these factors I have made mention. The higher rise of insecurity in Nigeria have contributed poorly to the food insecurity in Nigeria. People cannot go to their farmland to farm in Zamfara State, in Plateau State, in Kaduna State, in many parts of the country, including in the southwest and the southeast. So one of the root factors, which is like a cancer cell in the food insecurity in Nigeria, is the higher rise of insecurity cut across the six geopolitical zone. Like in Zamfara State, before you cultivate your farm, the armed bandit and some criminal element will enforce taxes to the rural communities that they will not have access to cultivate their farmland until they pay some certain amount of money in millions. And also when they have also cultivated the land, for them to harvest, then also they have to enforce levy for them to harvest their crops. So some of the root factors of this food insecurity, you cannot take away the low harvest. And also, many money have been appropriated on issue of insecurity, on agriculture, and yet there's nothing to write home about. So these are some of the contributing factors. If you look at the statistical cost of the foods commodities in Nigeria, compared to before the inception of Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration, it has been increased to more than 80 to 100%. So, and also there is a persistent or galloping inflationary rate in Nigeria going by the indices.
Okay. I thank you, Dr. Abdullahi, for taking us through some of the causes of what we now see as acute food insecurity. But in the immediate, because for a number of us, what we're looking for is solution. How can the government begin to tackle this? Because you've talked about the informal taxes levied on farmers, even before they go to their farms, the insecurity in itself, whereby they can't be attacked when they're on their farms. Do you think the measures in place are sufficient, and what should the government be doing in the immediate to tackle this issue so we can have food security?
First and foremost, government should declare state of emergency on security and agriculture. And that should be an immediate review of the workers' wages and salary. Because if you look at this situation now, the economic hardship is eating every sector of the economy. And without money circulating, then there will be still a lot of problem. And the government should also lift a trade barrier on the importation of food items. And government should also encourage local production of food items. And also government should find a way of making that the Nigerian currency is being appreciated. If you compare to the exchange rate of dollar to a naira, it's more than 1,455 naira per a dollar. Government should have an immediate solution to the depreciation of naira. And government should unlock the food reserve, whether these food items can be subsidized and sell to the members of the public at the low price. Because when the government bought these foods, it was at the lower rate. But now, one mood of local rice is 3,000 naira. And the one bag of the foreign rice is 75,000 naira. Even the one local rice here we process in Nigeria is more than 60,000 per 50 kg. So that should be immediate solution to this problem. And the solution to the food security is 5 pillars: accessibility, stability, availability, and utilization. So that should be an availability to remedy the situation. And that should be also a stability in the price. And that should be a proper utilization of these food items if the government have unlocked the food reserve in Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you so much, for all those solutions you've put forward. But I'd like to ask you one thing. I know Zamfara too has a lot of farming going on. You're from Zamfara State. Can you just tell us about the plight of the farmers there under this administration and the insecurity? How easy has it been for them to farm?
Before we call Zamfara farming, it's our pride. But with this present situation of insecurity, which was developed for the first 1 decade, farmers are not be able to go to their farms to cultivate their farmland, talking of having a bumper harvest. So there is low cultivation of farmland, more than even 70%, which these local communities and the peasant farmer that farms their farmland also to contribute to the food security in the state. But now, most of these rural communities have been externally and internally displaced by these criminal armed bandits. On daily basis, people are being killed, people are being kidnapped, ransom are paid in higher numbers, in millions. And this bandit, dry season, rainy season, they impose taxes. And also, if you look at also the ecological problem and the climatic change can also contribute to the food insecurity in Nigeria, also in Zamfara state. And now, the government has to do drastically find a way to celebrate the present insecurity situation in Zamfara state, also cut across the country. There is an epidemic banditry escalation in all the 14 local government rural communities. Most of these rural communities are being governed by the armed bandit leaders. All these armed bandits, their leaders, have their catchment area where they command authorities to the local people and also to their banditry groups. So I want to tell you that there was no farming activities going on in Zamfara state, which we have for the past 10 years. People are not being allowed by this criminal armed bandit to also cultivate their farmland. And even if they farm during the dry season farming, they farm watermelon, sweet potatoes, and other perishable items. Yet this bandit will also bring their cow into the farmland and also eat up their palm crops. They even use it as a grazing land. And still, if the rural community talk to them, then they will end up losing their lives. So we need the government to step in and declare state of emergency on food security and also on the insecurity. The security in Zamfara state are overstretched, poorly motivated, and poorly equipped. With all the budgetary provision in the national budget, yet there's nothing to write home about. And that is what gave birth to the creation of the vigilante group called Askarawa Zamfara to fight banditry and other criminal elements in the state by the government of Dawda Lawal of Zamfara state.
Dr. Abdullahi, one of the recommendations you mentioned, review of wages and salaries, you said, which is also a topical subject, with the federal government having set up a 37-person wage, national minimum wage review committee. Now, that committee, that 37-man committee, is to come up with a new national minimum wage. The last National Minimum Wage Act due to expire, by the way, by March 2024. Now, what, in your opinion, will be the appropriate kind of national minimum wage? You recall that the last time under the Buhari administration, 30,000 naira was fixed. Most of the states have not even implemented that law. They've observed it in the breach. This time around, with inflation at 28.92%, what should be the appropriate national minimum wage? You recall that 2 years ago, organized labor was asking for a minimum of 200,000 naira. How much should they ask for now as minimum wage? Maybe we should be asking, we should be looking at, if we do proper wage indexation, we should be looking at 500,000 naira as a national minimum wage. But what are your thoughts?
Well, you see, the increase of labors, increase of wages and salaries is very paramount at this critical time. Looking at the inflationary rate, which is persistently increasing on daily basis. And there should be a legislation on the wage increase. The 30% minimum wage cannot even afford to buy half a bag or 25 kg of local rice. Take less of paying school fees, take less of paying pulling the car by the workers, which even as you have said, my own state where I come from in Zamfara state, are yet to implement the 30,000 minimum wage for over 10 years. So the wage increase, the workers should be asking for not less than 200,000 minimum wage. Looking at the higher cost of food items, all the goods and services in Nigeria, everything has been double or more than 100% increase. And the inflation rate is always getting to 30%, talking of 28.something%. So there should be a very drastic and immediate solution to this problem. So the workers have even demanded less, looking at the present situation. A bag of rice, 70,000 naira, a bag of sugar, 75,000 naira, and many increase, talking of taking their children to school, taking their children to provide health care and other things. A government has to come out with some palliatives, subsidy on health sector, subsidy on transport, and many other sectors to see how the Nigerian masses or the Nigerian workers will have a means of livelihood. Because if you look at the standard of living now, the low standard of living now, because of the devaluation, the appreciation of Nigerian currency and the velocity of money in circulation, if you look at it, is also very low because of this unemployment, poverty, corruption, even low budgetary provision on agriculture. So these are some of the measures the government should look at it, and the government should also have to immediately sponsor a legislation to the National Assembly for the implementation of national minimum wage. And the committees should not also waste time in making recommendation to the executives so that the bill could be sponsored to the National Assembly. Because this committee of 39-man committee, and also you have made mention that the legislation was expired March 2024, they should not be on record. They should be in action, not on paper. They still, as a matter of urgency, step into action and also send their recommendation to the Mr. President for sponsoring the legislation of the bill. Because for you to implement a minimum national wage, there must be a legislation of the Act of National Assembly.
Correct.
So that to be signed into law and be gazetted into to be gazetted.
Well, on that note, Dr. Sani Abdullahi, would like to thank you very much for joining us on The Morning Show.